Mishenichnas Adar Marbim B'Simcha. When Adar comes in, we add on to our Simcha, and Ein Simcha Ella Simcha Shel Torah and Torah Shel Simcha. So we have a great panel, organized and arranged. Kol Kavod Yasher Koach, and thank you to Rav Allen for making this afternoon possible. A special thank you to Rav Hartstein Rav Beasley, who have come in special for this event, as well as Rav Hartstein. Today we will have a panel on the topic revolving around the issues of Purim. And what better panelists could we have than these two? You didn't say anything. Okay. All right, so we're going to start the first question. What do you think the meaning of Purim is, and how does it relate to fun, to entertainment? Who would like to?
Oh, not me, not you.
Well, if we're not going to take fun seriously. All right.
Rav Beasley.
I've been looking everywhere for a definition of humor, just to give some framework to what being funny is, what is humor. Everybody has different understandings. And I've been thinking a lot about it in the context of the story of the Megillah. And most definitions that you find online, Rav Google, Shlita, okay, suggest that humor has something to do with looking at a different way of looking at reality, where something pops into your mind and it's just a little bit off, whether it's the chicken crossing the road and what's not expected, the guy who first stepped on a banana peel and fell inventing slippers, and these sort of things, and these little things that sort of take us, we look at reality not so seriously. I think the Purim message is very interesting. It's very different. What the Purim story tells us is you're looking at reality. And if you were to read the Purim story in a newspaper, you would have the story of Vashti, say, in the section of Ann Landers. I've got a rebellious wife. What do I do with her? And I have a Esther in the fashion pages, and the politics and the raising of taxes of Mordechai and Haman in the local news and international news. And the king's insomnia would be in the medicine section. But you don't see it all together. And you see reality, but you never get to see the whole picture. And once you look at the whole picture, you realize, wow, this is great. It all fits. And you just start to smile. And I think that's what Purim teaches us about being happy. It says, look again at what's around you. You don't have to create this new reality or hidden reality. Just look at what's there. But if you look really deeply, you can see everything that you need. And that should give you a really tremendous sense of simcha. And to that aspect, that's why Hashem's name is not mentioned. We don't need an overt miracle. What is there is enough. And I think that's one that to me is perhaps the fundamental message of Purim, and what it comes to teach me about what it means to be happy, to look at what you have and just smile.
Rav Hartstein.
What do you say? I think that Purim is probably, at least for me at the age that I'm at, one of the saddest days of the year, because I have to spend the day taking my kids to deliver Shalach Manos everywhere. I have to spend the day with my kids, that's the first thing. And, no, that was a joke. Okay. I think that...
I have to spend it with my in-laws, don't worry.
That's why I moved to Israel.
Mine followed.
When I, just one, can I tell a joke? Is it okay? When we decided to move to Israel, so we told my in-laws, it was one of the hardest days, I think, of our Aliyah preparation. We told our in-laws we wanted to move, and my in-laws went absolutely berserk and crazy. My mother-in-law said the famous comment. She says, if you move to Israel, she says, I'm never going to talk to you again. So I said, we're moving right now. It really happened. She hasn't spoken to me since. Anyway, so I think that Purim is filled with simcha because simcha is a lot about being able to laugh at things. And actually, when we moved to Israel, probably the greatest advice I've given to anyone and received from anyone is that when you become an Israeli, if you don't start to laugh at things, the fact that you will, go to try to get a license for your car will take you 9 times at least, and then on the last time you go, the lady will actually say, "I'm going to find something to make sure you don't get a license today," which is what she said to us. And you have to laugh. You have to laugh at things, and I think that is the story of Purim. The whole concept that we have is unbelievable, and that is the opposite. B'nahafochu, right? We have a day that we're masks. We literally wear costumes. I know we'll get to it maybe later, but we do things that we don't normally do during the rest of the year, because Simcha is really letting ourselves go and recognizing that we're not in control. And we spend almost our entire lives wanting to be in control, and this is the day, as we see the story of the Megillah, is that we were not in control. Things appeared to be quite bleak, but Yeshuas Hashem keherefayim. It was just, and that's really what Simcha is about. Simcha is about being able to relax, to laugh at things, and say, you know what, I'm not truly in control. It is quite amazing to see. We know there are people like that have such emunah that they could laugh at things that seemingly are very difficult. And I think that's, the pasuk that we say today when we bench. So we said, "Az yimala schok pinu." There'll come a time, the future days, we'll laugh because when Mashiach comes, we'll finally understand why everything had to happen in our lives. The puzzle pieces will go together. That's true simcha. Because if you understand, you would smile and be, "Oh, okay, now I understand. That's fine. Okay, that's nothing compared to that." And I think that is what Purim is all about. To stop sometime during our year, happens to be, somewhat of of about 6 months into your year. I wish it was a midpoint, but 6 months into your year, and you stop and you say, "Am I able to do that? Can I recognize that the emunah is a lot about not being in control, of leaving it up to God?" And of course, the name of Hashem not being in is also part of that, of saying that Hashem is always around, and that's the true simcha, that's the true fun in it. I also point out that I don't believe, as some like to say, it's a kids' holiday, and adults really are not part of this, and they're not allowed to dress up, and they're not allowed to make jokes, and they're not allowed to. I think that's totally not true. I think that simcha is a big part of it. And that's why we say, Misha nichnas adar marbim b'simcha, that we know, but even when we say Misha nichnas av ma'atim b'simcha, it doesn't say, it should say, Misha nichnas adar, right, what? Marbim b'atzava says you should be, no. We always have to have simcha in our lives. Even in Av it says, ma'atim, it doesn't say you're not allowed to be happy. Simcha is a big part of our lives. The question is, what does that simcha mean? And I think simcha does mean a lot sometimes, just taking back, making a little bit of a joke, doing that in order to realize things don't always have to be so serious.
Rav Alan.
I really don't have anything to add. That's the combination of what I was going to share as well.
I saw your notes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'll just say, I mean, many of us are in a transition state right now. We don't really know what we're doing next year. We don't really know what's going to be with college or with Shana Bet or with the army, so on and so forth. And the message that my esteemed colleagues shared, that at the end of the day, it's going to be okay. And you've got to take things with a certain sense of humor, and you've got to roll with the punches and not be anxious and understand, just like the Jewish people in the Megillah, they thought they were going to be annihilated. In the end, it ended up being a simcha. So too, we have to have faith. We have to have emunah that God is going to take care of us. And part of that challenge sometimes in life, when we get those curveballs, is to just, say, all right, what can I do? I'm going to laugh at it. I'm going to try my best to just overcome it. And, we spoke about the hiddenness. A lot of the things in life, sometimes we worry about things that really we didn't need to worry about because it wasn't a big deal. And we, in our own minds, have constructed something that doesn't really exist. So I think it's important to take a step back and to look at the situation and to see it for what it is. And that's also part of the story of Purim, to see the difference between the superficial and the real. To take the mask off and to see things for what they really are, as opposed to perhaps what secular culture is telling us or what our imagination is telling us.
Very nice. A lot of people, when it comes to Purim, they think a lot about drinking on Purim. And for many, that becomes like their big focus leading up to Purim, and that's what their mind is on. So my question for you is, what's your perspective on drinking on Purim? You could relate to it on a halachic level, on a hashkafic level. What's the role of drinking on Purim? Rav Beasley. Canadian.
The role of drinking in general. I like it. Okay.
I like.
Okay. But I never drank to. When I was growing up in teenage, and some people feel this need, they have to push all their limits, all their boundaries. And I was always the kind of kid who watched everybody else do it first and say, okay, I'll do that. If they fall off the cliff and they land in the water and it just looks like fun, I'll jump off too. But if they land on the rocks, I'll probably say, something that's not worthwhile. And the same thing I watched my friends, and I've noticed, there were friends of mine who needed to drink to have fun. And it bothered me because the key word was needed. The moment you are doing something to have fun, that you need something external, then it just didn't seem fun. So whereas I would sit with friends at a meal and we'd have one glass, say l'chaim, but I never felt the need to heavily drink or imbibe. Despite what the rabbi said underneath the chuppah, you were there, we won't talk about it in front of everybody else. But when it comes to Purim, I think it's different. Because there has to be a point in time, drinking has this unique ability to remove all of our inhibitions, remove all of the barriers that are holding us back. And as I said, sometimes they become our inability to see, tying back to this idea of Purim saying, let's just look at what we really are. If you're drinking like I sometimes do because my in-laws are coming over, again, that's not a good thing. Not the in-laws coming over, neither the drinking. If you are genuinely so happy that you've internalized the message of Purim, the eternal nature of the Jewish people, that you have, and you view this as an opportunity to really become close to Kadosh Baruch Hu, in a controlled environment, and I know this is against general yeshiva policy, I see it as a worthwhile expression, because Purim allows you once a year to do that. Take off everything else. What are you really? And it's hard to say that because I've seen rabbis I've respected who've drank, and the behavior has been, that's not who they are, and that's really not who they should be. And yet at other times, you and I came from Har Zion, from the circles of the Gush, where Rav Aaron would not drink too much because his biggest fear was that he would start reciting Brooklyn Dodgers box scores from the 50s. That was his worst avera. And the other Rosh Yeshiva, Rav Mital, was quite comfortable in who he was and in drinking and having a l'chaim. And it's always at those two poles. There's a side of you that says, don't, it could lead to inappropriate behavior. So I said, if you're going to have a chance to express yourself, then this is the one holiday to do it with. I've tried to convey as much of attention. I myself, my in-laws are coming, you know what I'll be doing. Again.
Rav Hartstein.
Wow, we wow.
We both should see Counselors for this in-laws thing.
I moved to Israel.
You guys know this is going to be on YouTube, right?
My mother-in-law doesn't know how to work it. Does yours?
I hope she does. So trouble. It's great. So I apologize to the different shurim that I've told this shtickle Torah to already. You've heard it. First of all, obviously, I want everyone to keep within the yeshiva policies. Whatever, I don't really care. I don't work here anymore. I'm gonna lose my mug home. Okay. My belief in this is no laughing matter. I think that I like to use the idea that Rav Moshe Sternbach purported based on the Arizal, where he quoted the Arizal's famous idea that Purim's on the highest spiritual level, not even like Yom Kippur, Yom Kippurim. So he says, how can that be? How can the Arizal say something so dramatic, Yom Kippur? So he says that on Yom Kippur, it's a day as one of my Rebbeim used to say, it's a day for fakers. It's a day for fakers. Because it's very easy for 25 hours to pretend that we're malachim. It's very easy when other people are looking around us because we want to act. So, we start, screaming out and clapping even though it might not mean anything to us and might be doing things. That's easy to do, to be like a malach, not to eat, not to drink. But comes Purim, he says, and nichnas yayin yotza sod. Within the rubric of halacha, which I believe, as I told my shurim that I had the zchus of teaching, that there is no halacha that will tell you that there's any source for drinking at night, for drinking during the day, only in the rubric of the Suda itself. That's really what the halacha is discussing. And I think that based on that, he says, nichnas yayin yotza sod. That's when the neshama really, and by the way, it's talking about wine, and that's when the neshama comes out. That's when we get to see who you really are, right? Again, based on the ideas that we spoke about already as well. This idea of I'm not in control, right? Being inebriated, you're truly not in control, right? That's why we don't operate heavy machinery. We are not in control. And nor should anybody be driving at all. It's a terrible thing to do. Thanks, Mom. So I think that could be a very good exercise in finding out who you guys are. After this many months, for everyone, about a half a year after Yom Kippur, so who have you become? You probably had the biggest transformation in your entire lives, spiritually, and now, so now we'll see really who you are inside. Are you still the faker, or are good things coming out? But I also purport that if you know already, because yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, was Tuesday night, and yesterday I happened to have a business meeting right across the street from Mike's place, and I saw a lot of you guys there. And no, it wasn't you. But if you know already, because you have gotten drunk just a week ago, chas v'shalom, but you know what you are, so then I don't think that it's a good idea. We will see here on Purim night, there'll be people who will be hugging the Aron Kodesh and davening to it and thinking they're married to it. And okay, that's amazing. And people taking out svarim and this, that. It's going to be a really big minority. Okay? A lot of other people will be doing some major damage in many different ways, hopefully not too extreme. And therefore, I don't think, if you know already who you're going to be, so then I'm not for it. But if it's something, and this is my chiddush for the year, getting tipsy, so that's not so bad. Having a few cups, going a little bit more extreme than the Ramah said of having Yoser Melumudo, which hopefully is not so much, nor his normal amount. So that's nice. The person gets a little bit tipsy, so that's good, because he stops for a moment, he's not in control of really who he is. That's good. But that's, I don't know how to reach that. I personally do know how. I have women wine. I have, Moscato that's, 4.5%, and I drink as much as I want, and you'll be fine. But so it makes me tipsy, so that's good. So I embarrass my daughter and but I do that all the time, so that's fine. But that's I think a level to go ahead and get totally plastered and to be out. So to me, that's not that's difficult. All the poskim discuss this seems to be antithetical to Judaism. How can it be? It's true. So if you want to take the extreme approach, which certainly is an approach, I think Rav Beasley's idea is that we're not in control. It's a good day, one day a year, so we show we're not in control. The problem is that it's usually taken out of context. Guys are going to get drunk at night because they think they have a heter for that. They're going to get drunk during the day. You're not going to be able to do all the things that you have to do on the day. It's such an important day. If now it's towards the end of the day, and now you go to your Rebbe's house and it's in a very controlled vacuum, so then I don't think it's as bad if it's done with wine, and then a person could kind of see who he is. And I think that's an important test for us to see, who we are and what we are.
Rabbi Allen.
So I'm always amused at the tendency for yeshiva guys to become ultra charedi in the fulfillment of this mitzvah on Purim, and to be super machmir to get the night in as well, and maybe Shushan Purim, maybe the day after Shushan Purim as well. The whole month. I recall when I first came 2 years ago, I believe with the exception of Hartstein, I may have been the only sober person within a 2-3 mile radius, which was amusing in itself. But I think we have to ask, like, what's the context? What's the purpose? Why am I doing this? You know, why am I drinking? And often it happens that we mistake the tafel with the ikar, right? I mistake what is secondary with that which is primary. I shared with you guys over Simchat Torah that used to be on Simchat Torah that
Simchas Torah.
Simchas Torah, that I thought like the Ikar was all about, you know, doing as many l'chaims as possible and dancing until like 5 a.m. so on and so forth. And then, you know, over the years I start to realize that yes, you know, it was fun to you know, to have l'chaims and to drink so on and so forth. But in fact, it was actually taking away from the experience that I was having on Simchat Torah to the extent that I completely stopped drinking, and it was a much more enjoyable experience. So the question is, if you're really looking forward to Purim, but it's only about the drinking, and it's only about, you know, getting sloshed, so on and so forth, so you don't need an excuse to get sloshed. You guys are going to college next year, you know, this, that, and the other thing. You know, you have to really ask, what's the bottom line? What is the context? And, you know, having been through that college experience and, you know, being in a fraternity, so on and so forth, I'm not going to go toe-to-toe with Rav Citron or anything like that, but, you know, once you've had all of that, you've kind of acted out in that way, so on and so forth, you come to a point that you're like, okay, you know, what's next? Been there, done that. And so for many of you, you know, the experience of drinking, it's like new, it's like, wow, I can do this now, you know, so I'm gonna ride it out, I'm gonna go crazy, so on and so forth. But then after that, you know, you're kind of left feeling empty, and you ask, you know, like, all right, so what's next? And so I think it's, I'm definitely very liberal when it comes to, you know, policy on drinking, so on and so forth, not, of course, outside of the yeshiva rules and regulations, you know, but at the end of the day, you know, the question is, like, what's the point? What am I really getting out of this? What am I really doing? And so if a person's going to drink, it should be done, you know, like, all right, I'm doing this to connect. I'm doing this not to check out, but rather to check in. And I think it can be used as a tool. Even Rav Dessler mentions in Michtav Miliyahu the judicious use of alcohol and how that has its functions. But again, not to make it into more than what it is, and not to make it into the be-all, end-all of the experience.
Rabbi Allen, we'll start with you, being a Sephardi. What's your opinion about women drinking on Purim?
We force all women to drink. The truth of the matter is, it seems from Rav Avadja, from the Ben Ish Chai, so on and so forth, and I'm not going to say that they came from this is not an excuse to use this word, but from a misogynist type society, so on and so forth, but I think we all know what happens when, you know, guys and girls drink together. Maybe some of you don't actually, but at the end of the day, it usually doesn't end too well. We know that for Vashti, it certainly didn't end too well. I'm not saying that would be something that actually happens in your home, hopefully not. But at the end of the day, let's say women are having their own suda, so on and so forth, and, you know, there's a controlled environment, you know. I mean, I'm not a posek, so on and so forth. I'd like to see Rav Siva answer this in the WhatsApp group. But so,
Should I WhatsApp?
Can WhatsApp him. But sof davar, I think everything within discretion and everything within moderation is appropriate.
Rav Hartstein?
I think that many years ago I was teaching at a girls' seminary, and I was also fired from there. And the first week, a girl unfortunately was caught drinking in a very serious way that she certainly compromised her sense of tznius, modesty. And to me, being naive, it was a big shock to me that so many girls in seminary would do that, knowing what the potential repercussions. I was very, very surprised by it. Again, naive, I admit. And I think that it's very, very dangerous. As it can be dangerous, certainly for guys. So I'm not a big fan of it. The halacha, besides the Sephardi halacha, there are plenty of Ashkenazi poskim who don't even give it any credence at all, saying that it's not a good thing. Some even say that all the halachic reasons for it don't apply to women anyway. even though Afin Hayubo Sarnes and they have to read the Megillah and they have to do the mitzvahs, this is not one that they have to do. And certainly in this case, again, as I said before, if you know who you're, again, to drink wine and to be yotzei the mitzvah of drinking wine, so you can do that. Again, I could introduce you to plenty of wines that are just fine. And that certainly you'll be yotzei. But again, if it's not in a controlled way, and very, very, very bad things can happen. Again, the same thing with guys too. There's no question about it. But I would say there's a kal v'chomer here that is not something that, in my opinion, women should be involved in. In general, I would say I would be against it unless we could find some sort of controlled way to make sure. Again, it's one of those things where. I know we're not getting on the topic this is going on YouTube of women and mitzvahs and so on and so forth, but if we already know that we as men certainly can control ourselves in the way that I think they meant it in the times it was written Adelo Yada, so kal v'chomer. So we're also not good at it. So maybe we have a heter, maybe we want to, as you said, we want to be super machmir, all of a sudden we want to become charedim on this day, good. But now to say that the women, they have to be, I don't know if that's such a smart idea in this case because of what it could lead to.
I haven't driven my wife to heavy drink by now, after 28 years.
You might have, you just don't know.
I've been missing a couple bottles. Anyways, I've always found, in theory, the arguments for equality, feminism to be, in a way, persuasive. Equality sounds good. It's reflective. It's Tzelem Elokim, one person who's created, male and female. But upon closer reflection, how is it? Somebody once said to me, men used to behave in a certain way, and if a guy sleeps with a lot of women, he's given one name, and if a woman behaves in the same way, she's given a much more derogatory name, right? And had the sense of equality been linked with a sense of morality, it should have been that women should have said, we won't behave in this way, and men won't behave in this way either. And instead, in the modern world, equality has meant now women and men can both behave in ways that are not moral, not that are inappropriate at best to the Tzelem Elokim that we all create. We live in a world where, unfortunately, I remember also teaching to a girls' institution. It was 18 years ago, and we were discussing the laws of Havdalah. And I'm curious to see how you'll react. I said, and if you don't have wine, you may want to use Chamar Medina, something like Heineken. And somebody said, what's a Heineken? And another girl shouted out, oh, it's a really bad tasting beer. And all the girls looked at that second girl, and she was very quick on her feet and goes, that's what my brother tells me. It was a very quick save.
But you ended up marrying her, so that's a good story.
YouTube, Rabbi.
I don't care.
I feel like the Republican candidates when Donald Trump was insulting their wives, on public, like, do you slug them now or do you wait till after the battle? Okay.
I just want to remind you that last year, you don't mind if I tell this to you? Last year we had a beautiful Shabbos, you weren't here for it, for Rav,
that's why it was beautiful.
Rav Allen.
Okay.
Rav Allen, we did a lot of fun jokes. And at one point, with Rav Allen's permission, he said, let's get into a pretend fight and the guys will think it's really funny. So we did, and we started fake punching each other. And apparently it wasn't so fake punching, I broke Rav Allen's nose. So it's just a warning. It's just a warning.
Rav Boaz did bench press Rav Uri.
Okay,
Wow, Rav Uri! First of all, Rav Uri could bench press himself. That's the look.
Next question. Okay, next question. Rav Hartstein, you'll go third.
If we have any time.
Rav Beasley, What's the most memorable Purim, most inspirationally memorable Purim that you've had?
Purim. Plural Purims or Purim? My last year teaching as a Ram in Mivaseret, I had the guys over. It worked. They loved it because Mivaseret at the time still counted as the Yerushalayim. It was the 15th of Adar. So if they came out to a lunch food on the 14th of Adar, it's like their warm up, stretch the stomach, stretch the liver out, and then go do the real drinking on the 15th of Adar, back in the yeshiva. And I think it was also the last time my wife ever allowed me to have yeshiva guys over for Purim. And I'm saying this memorable because I've seen people do very foolish things that they may regret. People got drunk, one guy disappeared, 4 hours later came back missing his jacket, his shirt, his camera, a cut down his head. We never figured what happened to him. We really did. It was he just wandered off, and in the West Bank you can't just wander off, it's never a good thing to go wandering, Got some places to show you. Anyways, and my wife then found another one of my Talmidim in the bathtub, at 8 o'clock at night, after everything else was all cleaned up, and he was also missing, all of his clothing.
Okay, next question.
But for myself, and it was recorded on tape, but it was before cell phones. Before it was YouTube Ruav, cell phone Shomat, and everything is recorded nowadays. But apparently I was a little bit past the tipsy stage, and I led Chazarat Shas Mincha. And in opinion of most opinions in Gemara and Brachot, we made up our own Shmona Esrei, but kept the right Chatimot, which is perfectly acceptable as long as with the theme. And I listened to the tape afterwards. Aside from doing it all in the voice of Rafiki, okay, and trying to lift a student over my head, about the size of Rabbi Hartstein.
Wow, you must.
But
I'm not gonna make fun of myself.
You already do. Okay. So apparently, what came out was very inspirational. As I said, drinking can be a barometer of where you stand spiritually. And I said that. That's what I wanted to be. That's the person I want to be. I want to learn more. I want to try to be this sort of person. This is stuff I would never have revealed to not only my students, but to myself, this is where I want to be. And it was something that meant something. And that's why I said, if you look at Purim as an opportunity, and by the way, I would suggest there should be the day after Purim, maybe the week after, once the headache settles and you've got your feet up and ask yourself, what did I do and why? It's important not to have an experience. To have experiences is important, but to be able to sit back and reflect on the experiences and understand the experiences and to say, what can I learn from the experiences, is just as important. So don't get too caught up. Once you get after Purim, don't rush into the Pesach cleaning just yet. Sit back. What happened? Why did this happen? What do I need to work on? And make Purim, like every opportunity, we have a chance for growth.
Yeah, I don't know that I have a favorite Purim. Every Purim is great. I particularly enjoy the craziness that takes place on Purim, even if I have to clean up for it. I like very much what Rav Beasley said about taking a step back and kind of debriefing. I encourage people, after going through an experience, we did this in some Geshurim, to just look back at Tzfat and to ask, what was the high point, what really impacted me. So every Purim there's something new to learn, but at the end of the day I like the camaraderie, I like the dancing, I like the simcha, I like that everyone is kind of unplugged. I particularly enjoyed last year when I took advantage of the Rosh Yeshiva's state of mind, and we did a Sephardi coup in the Beit Midrash and davened Arbit Edut HaMizrach.
Rav Ely went crazy.
Yes, it was great. Rav Hartstein also appreciated that, as he has been known to frequent some Sephardi places. So yeah.
Rav Hartstein, I have a new question for you. Serious question then. Okay. You say Divrei Kedusha Tzrichim Hachana, that you have to prepare yourself for a big thing. What advice would you give the guys in terms of making sure that their Purim is not a superficial but a really meaningful experience?
So I think you started already by listening to, the serious parts of what we said. I think you should take it, very seriously. I didn't get to answer the question, but I think for me, most of my Purims were more like Thanksgiving Sudas my whole life, which meant that, you went to family's house and, you had a Thanksgiving Suda, except, maybe there was wine there and maybe instead of turkey there was something else. But it wasn't as spiritual. And then my first year in YU, when I went to a Goldbach Suda, I experienced something totally different. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable in the sense of there are a lot of people there. At least I felt like, he's looking at me, and he was on top of the alcohol consumption, was taking bottles away from people. And you really, for me, it was the first time I really felt, obviously because I don't remember Shana Aleph too well, what happened there, but I very much felt that this is what Purim was about. It was very spiritual. Besides Rav Goldach himself, lighting Shabbos candles and wearing a kittel, and it was a simcha that all of a sudden changed itself. And I think that everything that's been said now, and that this idea of reflection is really, you want to make it. It can't be all about drinking. That's not what the day is about. And I hear guys talking about their costumes and what the costume's going to look like. And oh my God, I hope I don't get kicked out of yeshiva because I'm going to look like this. And that, by the way, to me is also a little bit a part of nichnas costume yotza sod. Sometimes I look at the guys and go, oh yeah, that's who you really are. But I think that you should concentrate on really what the day is about. There, excuse me for saying, but there has been years where guys have argued that. Which one of the two, you get to choose which Megillah reading you go to. No, it's not like that. There's two Megillah readings, you have to hear both of them. Experience all the mitzvahs of the day. Maybe for the first time in your life, you'll be able to give Matanos Avionah. For the first time in your life, you'll actually be able to give real Shalach Manos, that's not, a cracker and a candy. And be able to Mekayim the mitzvahs and understand what Hashem wants from us. I think that, to me, is to pre-game in the sense of knowing that, yeah, there's going to be drinking. It's good. It's going to be in the rubric of my Rebbe's house, and it's going to be with my Rebbe, which should be something very special. But that's not what it's all about. And we cloud ourselves. Sometimes I also think when it comes to this powerful spiritual experience of Yom Kippur, we don't know what to do, because I'm sure for most of you, and I could say this even years and years of Yom Kippurs, the first year that I davened here was so unique and special. So a lot of us, especially when you're 18 years old, you don't know what to do with it. So you say, wait, spiritual high equals high. So let's go out to Ben Yehuda, because and I understand where that came from. So the same thing over here is that you could be on a spiritual high, you could have such a beauty, and then you say, oh, that they don't equal each other. And what you have to do is say, this is what my Purim was like. Now what do I do with it? And this is the time of the year. This is it. This is your time of the year. Unfortunately, Rabbi, as you close your ears now, but the year's over, right? Purim's very, very soon, and then you're already thinking about Pesach, and then you're off for a month, and then you got all the amazing holidays. So this is the time to reflect on it and say, well, how's my Purim going to be? This could be the most spiritual Purim of my entire life, not to scare you. So what am I going to make of it? I'm going to make a joke of it and already start pre-gaming on the night before and get drunk. And I don't even remember what Purim was. What's that? What is that?
I'm going to make a little push here for my profession. Read the Megillah. Again. Because it's especially, for those who are in the Megillah Shir, know that the danger of Torah learning is a danger that doesn't apply by Talmud. It doesn't apply by Halacha, but applies specifically by Tanakh. Especially the real danger of those stories you were taught in grade 2. And then you get stuck with that grade 2 perception in your head. And if you're lucky, you'll revisit a couple of the stories later in life, but you always have this very superficial, appropriate for grade 2 understanding, but we should be looking deeper. And one of the things that I challenge myself, buy a new book on the Megillah, read a new parish every year. There are so many good things in English now. The Dawn, a political commentary by Yaron Chazoni, fascinating. Yoni Grossman's new book, The Professor from Bar Ilan. It can be simply the Malbim. Simply go through it with Rashi. If you read through Rashi, if you've never learned the Gemara and Megillah, the first chapter, the 5 pages of Agadah to deal with the Purim. But find something that says, hey, that's something about Purim I didn't know before. That's something I didn't know before. We worry so much about the experiential part, which is such an important part of the makeup. But we also have to worry about the intellectual part. There's things we need to know. And there's things, and not only that, we have to have the ability to look at a text and look at it again and see something new in the same text, because that's how what Torah learning is really about. If you simply say, okay, I've learned this, I know it, what's next? You're simply thrill seeking from one to another, to another, to another. To look at a text again, whether it's the Megillah, whether it's the Parshas, whether it's things that we thought we know. I learned Halakha in grade 2, but I didn't. Surely that's not the same as learning with the Mishnah Berurah, and it's not the same as reviewing, learning it on a different level. These are all things that we should be trying to accomplish as well on an intellectual level. Because the worst part about yeshiva, I find, is guys go back at a great year. Great, what did you learn? Baba Kama, what's it about? And they aren't able to articulate it. So find for yourself something. I learned something new. I heard a new Kiddush this week. I found something different. I understand the text in a new way. Find something that makes, and because that's the central part of Purim. As Rav Hartstein said, there's 2 Megillah readings, and why not go to it prepared with a sense of, oh, I know what this story is really about now. Because I think if you trust, and I trust it enough, that if you study that, that's enough. That's a turn on. That's excitement for the rest of Purim as well.
Rabbi Allen, what's your advice for these guys in terms of preparing themselves to make sure that their Purim experience is not superficial but really meaningful, and they can take it with them for the rest of their lives?
I think it's important to think about what your goal is. Is if your goal is just to get mashed, so that's the end goal and that's it. But as my esteemed colleagues have mentioned, if your goal is beyond that, and to think more deeply about yourself, and as has been mentioned, we know that when a person drinks, they have an altered state of consciousness. They have the ability perhaps to look at something from a different perspective and to come to an epiphany about something about themselves or something about their experience in yeshiva or about their life, and to really to take something and to seek that meaningful experience. Of course, we want to have fun. We want to have a good time, but we want to have a good time in a context of that at the end, it's not like I've just forgotten everything that's taken place, but rather to take some kind of a intense personal message out of the experience and to bring that through the rest of our lives and have an enhanced life and a happier life or more fulfilling life because of something that we learned over Purim. I think that's something that it's the gift that keeps giving, as opposed to just something which you remember and that's it.
Very nice.
And I comment on just something he said. I don't want anybody to have fun. I want people to be happy. And we have a tendency to use 2 words, fun and happiness, as if they're synonymous. And they're very not. In his book, Happiness is a Serious Problem, Dennis Prager has this wonderful line. I'll clean it up for the base medrash as it should be. He says, when you date a beautiful girl, the night is having fun, you can have a fun time. When the next morning you say, wow, she's really amazing. She spent time talking, we connected on something that lasts, that is permanent. That's happiness. And we have to, the American Declaration of Independence, I don't know, I'm a Canadian, so, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. And Stephen Covey points out that pursuit of happiness back then, the word happiness was synonymous with moral living. Because the way to really be happy was live a meaningful life, a life of value, a life of commitment. Fun, you do something, had an experience, I felt good, the dopamine was running around, the serotonin was, it was good, then it goes down and I go, and then of course we've got to go find something else, and find something else, and find something else. Our goal is not fun. There's no word in Tanakh for fun. If there is, it's called late Sonnet. We want simcha. Lots of simcha. Tremendous simcha. But simcha is meaningful, and it's inspiring, and it stays with you.
Hartstein, closing statement?
I'll ask one of the questions that you didn't ask, because I think it's really important. Sorry. One of the questions was supposed to be, why do I think humor is so important in the teaching of Torah? Because that's kind of all I have. And so I thought that was an important question. Why? So I'll just start with a little story about that. A few years ago, this yeshiva cares a lot about its students. And We spend many hours going through every single student in the yeshiva before the year starts, and trying to know a little bit about each of the students, which is really wonderful. So, Kedarka B'Kodesh, of course, it's Rav Asher's job to do that. And, as of every year, there are a lot of things that are coming up. This one has this unique situation, that one has this unique situation. So I think it was the end of the 2-day going through every single student. So Rav Asher, in front of everyone, looks at me and he says, "So Rav Hartstein, we have this situation with this one, so you can't make jokes about divorce, and you can't make jokes about this, and don't make fun about this one. This one has this, one has this. So please, be really sensitive this year when you're making any jokes." So I got up and I go, "All right, that's it. I got nothing. I'm out of here." Because you got all the Rabbeim who can teach Torah. All I got is the humor. But I do think that humor plays a tremendous role in Torah. And I think the reason is that for me, I was turned on to Torah kind of much later. My year in Israel, it wasn't exactly there. I had the great zchus of having a father who certainly turned me on to Torah, but there was still always that something missing for me to be connected. To make a bracha every morning, la'asok der Torah b'harevna, it should be sweet. And I wanted that sweetness so much. And then when I came into Rav Goldvich's shir, and I literally saw what in the beginning seemed like a madman running around the room, throwing desks and chalk at people, and going crazy, if nothing else, as my friend told me who convinced me to go to the shir, if you don't understand all the Hebrew, if nothing else, you'll see that he's high on Torah, and you'll say to yourself, that is the type of high that I want to be. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I want that. And he did it in such a beautiful way that I think it's very important to get through to Talmidim through that way. The biggest compliment that I've ever received, I'm not sure it was meant in a compliment, is after one of my business rooms, so a guy came out and he said, "It's unbelievable. This hour of Torah that we learned, I felt like we did absolutely nothing." I was like, "Wow, that's great." And he said, No. What I mean is," he said the word fun. He said, "It was so much fun that I can't believe we got through this whole source sheet and we did all this. I didn't know that Torah can equal that." And that meant a lot to me because that's what I try to accomplish. I try to include both. I try to include serious content so the guys understand what's going on in the end, but to have a good time in the sense of you understand that Torah can be fun. It should be fun. And it shouldn't be something, the concept of a person should learn Masha Liba Chafetz Bo is something that you like, something that makes you happy, something that you say, wow, this is, and for everyone it's not necessarily going to be the same thing. And it's fine. And we're not going to think any less of you if you come to us and say, yeah, Gemara is just, it didn't become my thing. Okay, that's fine. What is your thing, though? Oh, did I get involved in Tanakh? Oh, I love Tanakh. Push for you, yeah. I love...
It's a push for God.
As long as it's the first one. And, right, I love that. Or I love Shmishnais, or I love whatever it might be, that's fine. Because all of a sudden you start to do things that you like. And that's why I got so involved in halacha. I love the research. I love doing it. I love finding out the personalities of the different rabbanim. And to me, that's really what you guys should look at as well. You should look at that area, that you learn and it makes you happy. And you say, okay, that's good. And I don't think there's anything wrong with having a little fun. I do admit that you should find, a good teacher that you do enjoy. There's no mitzvah. I don't think you get. Maybe I don't think so. I know it says in Pirkei Avos, Shema Agra Agra, that if you go to shir. I once sat in a shir. Somebody advised me to go to the shir of a great gadol, and I was so excited. And I got there early, and I sat right in the front. And then he started speaking in Yiddish, and there's no way I could get out at that point. So that was, I guess, I got a lot of reward for that shir. I didn't understand what was going on. I understood like little things like Gesundheit and stuff, but it's all I knew. But you should find also a Rav. You should find a shir. You should find someone who you relate to, who you're able to. He says, not too. You shouldn't go crazy. You shouldn't. You have to be careful. I know some of the Rabbeim. I don't want to say any names of the yeshiva. Maybe they go a little bit too far with some of the jokes. Okay, that's true. As long as they apologize, I apologize. As long as they apologize to me. But I think that's also important to see that that's what Torah is about. That's the bracha. We're asking Hashem every morning, v'harevna. It's a request of Hashem. Please, I'm begging you to make the Torah something that, to me, and I think it's a beautiful idea that you said, that's not just fun, but it's something that gives me simcha in life. Simcha in life, right? Not after you go to shir, oh, that was real fun. What did the rabbi speak about? I don't know. But it was so funny. It was so funny. That's not good. There's a way in sales pitches they tell you, say something funny at the end and they'll think you're a great guy, and that's it. Then they won't even remember what the pitch was, but now all of a sudden you bought the thing that you didn't know. Okay, but that's not what Torah is about. It's something that's going to give you a simchas achayim, that's going to make the Torah, and it's interesting because the pasuk says, Lulei sarascha sha'ashua. So one interpretation, what's a sha'ashua? In modern Hebrew, it's like a toy, a rattle. That's the Torah. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be something. It's supposed to be. What can I say? It's not fun. I can't say something that makes you happy. But that's supposed to be. Right? You have a baby who has a little rattle. Like that's the best thing in the world. That baby's the happiest because it's got this little thing. That's what Torah's supposed to be. It's all you want with you. You take with you. You're going on a trip. And here's my sefer. I'm taking my sefer. I need my sefer. That's part of my vacation. That's what I think you should concentrate on. Find that thing that makes it fun. Simcha.
Closing statement from Rav Ely.
So I'm also going to answer that question, mainly because I wrote it. I grew up with a perception that Judaism was kind of a list of things that you're not allowed to do, and that having a good time or laughing or like doing positive things was not really stressed. So I did not have a gap year. I went to Israel after I was done with college, and I spent some time in Sfat, where we were just last Shabbat, and there I met a very charismatic and amazing rabbi by the name of Rabbi Gedalia Gerfein. Now, some of you had the privilege of hearing him speak to you last year when Rav Mo took us to Tel Aviv. He's somebody who's involved in the high-tech industry. And I remember going to a shiur, it was a Gemara shiur, and he was just cracking jokes left, right, and center, like Rav Hartstein Rav Beasley. Sorry. Forgot to bring the boxing gloves. To me that was just like amazing that this guy is like, quoting Pink Floyd and just, he's teaching something that has substance, but he's using humor and amusement to really get the people involved. And to me that was just like a great epiphany, because I was like, wow, you're allowed to do that? You're allowed to like make Torah, something that's fun and something that's exciting and something that, and nowadays in the field of education, in the field of trying to get you guys to be interested in whatever that we're teaching, we're competing with all these various things. We're competing with stand-up comedy and movies and shows, so on and so forth. And unless we bring something to the table that really amuses you or catches your imagination or gets you into it, it's going to be very hard to compete with that. So I found that one of the ways to reach people was to laugh together. And I found many secular books on the topic of the importance of introducing humor and comedy into the classroom. And you find that some of the best teachers are those that really get people into it through laughing. And we laugh together, you open up a little bit more. You drop some of your defenses. I'm like sharing how we do the brain cleansing now. But at the end of the day, I think it's a very important facet. There are, of course, many statements from Chazal. But I feel that when there is a positive camaraderie in the classroom, and when people are in a good mood and people are happy to be learning, and look, I'm very happy to give Musar whenever it's appropriate, as you gentlemen know. But I feel that it's really important to have an upbeat, positive environment in the classroom so that people leave the class not only feeling inspired and feeling that they learned something, but also they're positive about it and they're happy in general to be having that experience.
You want to say something?
I have nothing.
No.
We'll finish with just very briefly. I had a long talk. We did a very interesting exercise of being at the Rebbeim. One of the places I love Lev so much is because it forces me to continually grow. My first year of teaching, my principal at the time, Rabbi Kwawasser Sr., took me around his school and he said how long he's been teaching. This guy's been teaching for 40 years. I go, wow, 40 years experience, that's amazing. You're young guys, you guys teaching for 40 years. He goes, just don't mistake 40 years experience with teaching the same 1 year and repeating the same year 40 times. One of the reasons I love Lev as a place to work is because we constantly force each other to grow, come out of our comfort zones. And this year, we, in discussions with one of the administration members who's not at the table here, but said, what do you worry about? I said, I worry, I see parallels with, I remember when in the Revenge of the Sith, and all the Jedi are dying, and I'm sitting there in horror and shock and saying, my God, that's what Rabbi Akiva was feeling on Lag BaOmer. And I was never sure how appropriate a reference that was. But that's exactly, and I said, is that an appropriate reference? What do you think? He says, the question isn't, is it authentic? Is it you? And the reality is, well, yeah, I guess it is. So I do try, the goal is not to create this cast, but to demonstrate this is the sense of realness is who we are. We know when somebody's trying to put on a show, but everybody here is trying to sincerely demonstrate a beautiful, beautiful thing, okay? The Torah, living a Torah life. And if done properly, I think the best way to finish is where Moshe said it so many years ago to an Agudas convention. He said, why did American Jews leave Torah? Because when the father came home after not finding a job that didn't require him to work on Sunday and Saturday, and the mother couldn't find kosher food, that keeps sighing in their kids' ears, es ist schwer zu sein a Yid, it's so hard to be Jewish. Can you imagine an entire generation of people brought up, it's so hard to be Jewish, it's so hard to be Jewish, it's so hard to be Jewish. And Rav Moshe is the way it's described, he started pounding the table. This is the greatest sheker there is, the grossest sheker. It is so beautiful and so wonderful and so exciting to be Jewish. And that's what we're trying to convey. And the passion, it can be exciting. This is who we are, and this is what we're trying to teach, and this is what we try to share. I guess that's what fits in.
I'll end just by saying what we say when we start each week off at Havdalah. We quote a pasuk from the Megillah, La'ihudim hayta ora v'simcha v'sason v'ikar kein tiyeh lanu. Shavua tov. Shabbat shalom. Elections will be at 5:40.